Welcome to Riley's Garden Adventures, and today the plan is complex. I'm going to show you how I'm be growing all 44 tomato plants and 42 varieties in my 2023 summer garden. I'm going to cover fertilizer, containers, soil supports, pruning, and even biological enhancements. I will even show you how I harness the power of nature to be on my side, all backed up with experience and experiments. All possible to do in your own home garden. So let's begin. All right, first and foremost, I'm going to cover the fertilizers that I'm using this year for 2023, and I have split it up to two categories: my container garden and my garden bed. So first and foremost, the container garden is going to be using both OSMOCOTE and Bloom Booster flower food. OSMOCOTE is one of my 2 years long fertilizer I've been using for my garden, and it's had excellent results. The balanced formula of 14-14-14 NPK ratio has done quite well, and its slow release ability of 4 months has just done a great success on my garden, as you can see here. Now, another thing that I'm using is what I did a big extensive experiment on for 70 days is my Bloom Booster flower food, which is a whopping 10-52-10 NPK ratio, which is insanely high in phosphorus, and this is because it's supposed to encourage flowers. Now, in my experiment, I found out that it had outperformed both balance and control in creating the most blooms. So with that information in mind, I decided to apply it all throughout this season to give me more yield than ever possible. And that's why I'm using these fertilizers for my container garden. For my garden bed, I'm using something more organic side, which is Espoma, tomato tone, and chicken poo, organic tomato and vegetable plant food. Now, the reason why I'm using these slower release organic fertilizers compared to my OSMOCOTE and Bloom Booster flower food is because my garden bed is very well fertilized with already compost and garden soil, and just a bunch of things I put in there like crushed eggshells and the stuff that broken down over the spring. And so that soil is already really rich, and I don't need something to feed immediately like this, and I just need the slow release organic fertilizer, which I think will do really well, but probably not as much flowers as the Bloom Booster line. So this is all the fertilizer I'm going to be using this year. And let's move on to the next category. Biological enhancements, and here I have is Mycos from Extreme Gardening, or what I call steroids for roots. Now, I call the steroids for roots because Mycos, in short, is a beneficial fungus that binds with plants' roots to make them much bigger, stronger, and have a stronger uptake of nutrients than without it. And I've done an experiment on this on my tomato Mycos experiment video, where I compared this one with fertilizer with Mycos alone, and controlled. And Mycos with fertilizer just did extremely well in a massive size of plant in the same time the other plants were growing. So Mycos is great, and I applied it into every single root system that you see here today. And this is just going to be a great thing, like massive plants than you could have ever get without using this. So that's my biological enhancement. What we have is containers, and what I have is a very wide, diverse array of different kinds of container sizes. And as you can see, all the tomatoes are doing quite fine despite being in different size containers. Now, this is why, just to show you that you can grow different varieties of tomatoes in containers no matter what. We got here Cherokee Purple growing quite well in a container. We have Super Sweet 100, massive plant in this small 12-inch container. We got Sun Gold, look at that, producing so many tomatoes in a 2-gallon pot. So you can actually get away with a lot more than you think in the wrong size container, which is probably recommended to have like 10 to 20 gallons for a tomato, which I don't believe you really need and use. But that's how my containers are. What we have is the container supports, and here we have is a tomato cage and a stake. Now, it's pretty simple, and people usually say tomato cages are a terrible idea for tomatoes, which I disagree, because when you use it in conjunction with a stake, it provides a good base support for the tomato in the bottom levels, and then the stake provides a strong support in the middle. And this causes a tomato that can grow quite tall and keep sturdy. And as you can see, all of these tomatoes probably outgrown all their cages. However, with the stake attachment, the bottom is secured and the top is there. And that's how I'm supporting my container tomatoes. What we're covering is the soil that I'm using. For each of these containers is using a mix of the old soils that I had from previous years, combined with a new fresh 2/3 supply of Pro Mix all-purpose variety. Now I'm using this because I've had experience with Pro Mix, and I believe that it's really high quality soil. It's a bit airy, has good perlite, and it holds moisture quite well and compared to other cheaper brands out there. And so I paid a little bit more extra to use Pro Mix because I think it can do the difference in quality of tomato plants. So the next category we're having is pest control, which I'm both using a garden spray and the power of nature, which is birds. Now, as you've been seeing in my other videos, I've been having little bird houses in my garden deck. And look at that, we already have a tenant in here. And I just checked this morning and there's a nest building in here. So we have some birds that are providing natural defense against pests, and you can just hear them in the background having some fun. And I've been seeing them all around here. Here's some images of them in my garden, and they have been doing a great job picking off the worms and any types of pests that come into my garden. Now furthermore, I am using a garden spray, so I can't just rely solely on birds, but what I have here is a 3-in-1 garden spray from Maggie's Farm, and I'm using this paired to other ones because I really like the smell of this, and I believe it's not too harmful to use compared to using like pure chemical sprays. So that's the things I'm using to do pest control in my garden. So the last category we're covering in my container garden is pollinator attractors. So here we have is a diverse array of flowers in my garden. We got some dahlias planted here, California poppies here, we got dahlias here, salvias here, zinnias here. We got a huge amount of flowers just planted around here just to attract all the good bugs that usually eat all the bad things like aphids and whatnot. I've seen even beneficial wasps rip off caterpillars from these plants, and that's just something you want to see in a garden. And they also add the benefit of beauty into the garden, and I just like to look at these flowers. And when I'm out here harvesting tomatoes, who doesn't want to see a beautiful? So now that we're done with my container garden, let's look at my garden bed, which one of the biggest features that are different from last year is this new trellis. This trellis is designed and built with only using T-post, electric conduit metal pipe, twine, and zip ties, as well as 6-inch garden hay staples that you can't really see because they're underground. But why I built this trellis compared to last year, which were just one of these stakes, is because I wanted something that can support the tomatoes much more, since these varieties right here are my Elite 7. We got Abraham Lincoln, Big Beef Plus, Big Zack, which can go up to 6 pounds. We got Steakhouse, 2 to 3 pounds. We got Porterhouse, 3 to 4 pounds. And we also got Super Sauce because I like sauce tomatoes. And this is supposed to support all of that weight up to 8 feet tall. So just imagine by the end of the season how much tomatoes we'll have here, and huge tomatoes on this beautiful trellis I built. So this is a new support. Another thing that I did different this year than last year, other than this amazing trellis, is some straw. So I got this straw for $11 for a bale at Menards, and it's called Easy Straw. So the reason why I mulched this entire garden bed with straw is because straw adds a lot of benefits to the soil. Number one, it retains moisture. Now this straw, it blocks out most of the sun, so it lets the water that you water from this morning keep there, which is really important on those hot summer months. Another thing is that it reduces erosion. When we have those heavy rains and winds, soil tends to often blow away, and I've been seeing at the end of each of my seasons, the soil looks much different than before. And then the last thing is that it prevents diseases. So when you water tomatoes, water likes to splash into the ground and shoot up, bounce off, ricochet back onto the leaves, and this can cause diseases. Now straw prevents that by absorbing the impact of the water and letting the water disperse more uniformly under the ground and keeping it from splashing up, preventing the chances of disease. So this is a difference in my... So the last two things in my garden bed is my clematis and my bird feeder. So first is my bird feeder that I had from last year, which has been attracting lots and lots of birds to just chill out and eat all the bugs in my garden, as well as have a nice stack of seed suet. And like here, you can see a bit of the crumbs on my extended container garden right down here. But other than that, they've been doing a great job, and I would just keep refilling these with seed suet. It's really cheap. It's about $1.30 for a cake, and you just refill it and it'll last at least 2 weeks. The other thing is my clematis flower. So I got this actually luckily for free. And right here is a climbing clematis that goes all the way up this trellis and will wrap around here adding beautiful flowers. But aside from that beauty, it will also be a pollinator attractor, encouraging bumblebees and beneficial insects to help pollinate these tomatoes as they are growing. Look at that, already a flower right there, and a tomatoes right there. So you can see it's been working so far. And this is what my garden bed is for. All right, so the last thing I'm going to show you, my tomato master plan, is what I'm both doing for the container garden and the garden bed, is which I'm doing pruning. So I'm going to be single stemming most of my tomato plants, and this is how you do it. So as you see here, in between the leaf and this main stem is this little fixture of growth right here. And this will eventually turn into a new main stem, and I don't want that. I want my tomato plant to focus all in one big stem rather than multiple tiny ones. So what you do here is, what I'm going to do is do a little cut in the middle. Now, why did I cut from there instead of from right here? Now the reason is because I'm enacting a new policy called Missouri pruning. Now, Missouri pruning differs from regular pruning. It's instead of just cutting it from here, you cut off the leaf, as I said, but because you want to have this grow up to full size and provide an additional leaves for photosynthesis and shade for tomato plants when it gets super duper hot, preventing sun scald and increasing the potential for more photosynthesis. So yeah, so that's the last thing I want to show. So yeah, this is my 2023 tomato master plan, where I show you everything that I'm going to be using and doing for this 2023 tomato season. And now, when every time I do a little taste test video of all these 42 different varieties, you will know exactly how I've been growing them and exactly how to achieve the same exact results that you want in your garden. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more adventures on Riley's Gardening Adventures.